Greetings, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. I've been doing this now for 6+ years. It's hard to believe that. I am honored to still make content every day. I enjoy making content. But the community is very different than it was when I started. It's smaller now, though the people that are still left are certainly being incentivized to make more purchases more often, though a lot of them are microtransactions. The Black ISO store obviously didn't exist until somewhat recent. Daily specials, tier 2 primordial dust, all those super fun things. Well, I say this to say, when Cavalier crystals first came out, this was the dream. But back then, 6 stars were the highest rarity, and the drop rates weren't 3%. No, they were closer to what the featured Paragon crystals are now. 1.5% for a 6 star, 3% for a 5 star. And there was a guy who came to fame very quickly on YouTube called the Crystal Opening Whale. And he was known for putting Odin after Odin after Odin on his credit card to open, usually live, hundreds of dollars that turn into thousands of dollars of featured Cavalier crystals, trying to get the featured and sub-featured 5 stars and really hoping for the 6 star. This was back when Emma Frost came out and so many others. It was like around 2017, 2018, I think. And so I would watch this data with my jaw open because I could afford, maybe a couple of crystals total. And this guy was spending thousands of dollars a month on crystals, and it occurred to me and so many people watching this video over time that it was the worst value for your units. Valiant players now get something so incredible that Paragon players don't. And I know that it's a lot of money. It's too much for my own good. I have a 6 star Awakened Onslaught thanks to this early access $100 Valiant bundle, and Onslaught is now rank 5, and he is ascended, and he is Sig 130, and he gets banned in just about every Battlegrounds match that I produce. But I look at him and think, man, I feel almost a little guilty that Valiant players get so much more value than Paragon players, even though there's so many Paragon players that have way better skills than I do. They just don't have the bankroll to afford hundreds of deaths in Necropolis, or hundreds and maybe closer to a couple thousand of dollars during Cyber Weekend at the end of November and beginning of December. But we had somebody on the community who reached out to me so demoralized, but also wanting the data to be shared. He spent, with tax, I think over 3,000 American dollars on crystals chasing Bullseye. He wanted the 7 star featured, but of course the odds of that are incredibly slim. So slim, in fact, that even after $3,000 worth of purchases, he came up short. Let's say this is the crystal, right? Well, the featured for old 7 star Wolfie is 0.3%, which is why I am incredibly thankful that I got this exact 7 star champion in my latest Titan crystal, thanks to the Road to the Crypt rewards. But if you want to think about the difference between $100 guaranteeing you the 6 star featured before anybody even has access to it for units, I mean, that's part of the appeal of the early access bundle. You get early access to a champion that won't be released for about a week, sometimes more than a week if it comes out on Tuesday, and the crystal comes out the following Thursday. So he sent over the data. About 300 crystals were opened, and these are featured Paragons. How many 7 stars do you think he opened in those 300 crystals? What do you think? Well, 1 is the answer. Now, of course, he did get 6 star Bullseye. He actually got him not once, not twice, but 3 times. But it took him about 100 crystals to open a 6 star Bullseye. So for every 100 crystals he opened, He got one. A SIG 40 6-star bullseye. A SIG 20 6-star bullseye would cost Valiant players $200. Now, obviously, if you live in another country besides America and your conversion rate is screwing you over, and even across the pond, if it's 1-to-1, usually your money is worth a little bit more than American dollar, but they still charge you the same, so you're actually getting screwed over too. Not to mention applicable taxes depending on what area you're in. Valiant players, $200. Paragon players, $2,000. It's literally 10 times out of zero the cost for Paragon players. He got a couple other new champs. One you can just kind of laugh at, and that's this 6-star Rhino. Pretty sure nobody's saying, oh, that's worth $3,000. But the 7-star is a dedication to our beloved Mama Bear. And if you follow this channel at all, then you know who it is before I even have to show the picture, but let's just do it accordingly, and that is 7-star Venom. So, this is kind of a horror story. And it's a reminder of how the Marvel Casino of Champions doesn't care if it costs you thousands of dollars to get the champion, because they got your money. And 95% of people on even YouTube don't make enough on their channels to justify spending thousands of dollars on this game. Certainly every month, but maybe even every year. And yet that's the reality of it. Now, I think this summoner could afford it, but they sent over the data just letting you know what it's like to celebrate Paragon truly way all out. It's a danger when you start to make a goal to get a champion and then you don't get that champion, you just keep charging the credit card, and it can turn into a dangerous situation for your wallet. So this is a MCOC horror story, and I'm not saying that people should watch this and feel sorry for the summoner, because he knew what he was getting himself into, and I think he has the money. I hope he has the money. But there are people who've told me, privately mostly, that they stopped playing this game because they couldn't stop themselves from spending and they didn't have the money. Look, if you want to spend thousands, you've got thousands to spend. I know people who this is their fun, and they don't have a spouse, they don't have kids, they've got plenty of disposable income, they can pay their bills. I say go for it. But credit cards don't depend on whether or not you can pay your bills. They depend on whether or not you have the space to charge that Odin. And I think it is an important responsibility for me on this channel to just warn you of what can happen. Even if you got a couple 7-star bullseyes, I don't think it would have been worth it, but this is how Kabam also gets you psychologically. Hey, congratulations, you're Paragon. You now have the ability to give us more of your money. Sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands. In this case, thousands. Either way, thank you to the summoner for the data. I respect your wish to remain anonymous, and yet I appreciate the screenshots to show, well, the video component of this story.